have trouble blinking from Chuan. Ravage on 3, Shackle on 2. Waiwei, a beautiful little shackle from him, and that sets up a quick double kill. Because the question, Demon starts it off with the Firefly blinks in, grabs K Phoenix, surprise!
Does get chucked up before he BKBs. FC overextending. Here comes the AoE, but he's already gone down N9 in a...
Will this be enough to bring Long GD down? He's so low. Maybe should have saved the flame breath. Don't know if that last auto attack would have hit in time. He kills him with the splash on kill.
And we'll get out. They haven't got sentries or dust. The cloud comes in. Maybe an Aegis.
Oh!
Well played.
Oh, this is a beautiful thing to see. It's a base trade, and EG might be caught unawares. It's a time for a TP scroll check, and nobody has a TP on EG.
They haven't done enough damage to backdoor protection. They need
Unbelievable!
more geniuses.
Thousands of years of waiting, and yet no time to waste.
Welcome everybody to the playoffs of the G1 League. We have our first match about to come, and it is Arj versus IG. I'm LD of DotaCommentaries.com, of Beyond the Summit, and I'm proud to bring you a man who some thought was lost to this world. His name is GoDz, and he joins me here today. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. It's fun always to be back. It's been a long time since I've been here. It feels like I've completely abandoned this tournament at times, but I'm here back for the playoffs just when the tournament has just reached that next level, and we're going to have a fantastic match today. It really is going to be very, very exciting.
You're here for the fun part. This is where it gets interesting, guys, to say the least. So, GoDz, let's talk about today's match a little bit. Oh, well, we'll get to that, I should say. But let's talk about the tournament a little bit. We had some great matches in the group stages. A lot of teams that, I guess, some surprises, some expected results. You can pretty much expect IG to come in after their performance at the International, do well. Let's take a look at the results for the groups and sort of walk through those, talk about how each team did and what you expected, and sort of curious what were the biggest surprises for you. So, we look at the group standings. We'll start with that. We can flip back and forth between that and the results. But IG 8-0 and should actually be 12 points. Whoops. Well, yeah, they have 12 points. They won every single match convincingly. LGD struggled at times. So out of Group A, what did you think of results for that group?
Well, for Group A, it really was, I mean, IG dominating, I would say. It was really the thing that a lot of people expected there. The big surprise, I think, was LGD's form. LGD having switched the roles around a bit, they didn't perform as well as they'd like, and it was sort of really highlighted in that last round draw against MUFC, where MUFC are a team who haven't really been playing as well as people have seen them in the past. They're a team who have their ups and downs. They seem to do well against when they verse Orange Esports, but for the most part, they are a struggling team. So I think LGD in a bit of a slump, and IG just really crashing through the competition.
IG just, you know, it's scary that the new version comes out. I feel like the IG that we're seeing right now could they could play 30 games against the IG at International 2, and they'd probably win 29 or 30 of those. It's just another level, even for what we saw for them prior to the group stages, or prior to this tournament, I should say. And it's not like they weren't impressive then. They weren't just winning in this tournament. They didn't just win the International, but they've done well in every other event. They took WCG China, which was in Dota 1. They also took the Ace League. So pretty much every event IG plays in, they're not just taking first, but they're doing so in dominating fashion.
It really looks like IG could end this year having won every major championship. The only one if they win the G1 League, and if they win SMM, they are the kings of 2012. They've done what eHome did back in 2010, but better. eHome couldn't win SMM back then. It was the one title which eluded them. They missed out on the one championship. If IG take G1 League, SMM later this year, they are just on top of the world, and there's no one who can dispute the fact that they're the best team in the world. There's no one who can really dispute that fact at this point already, but I feel if they do that, they could go down as one of the best teams in the history of Dota.
I just gotta say, whoever's working on these overlays should be fired. Whoever's the noob using XSplit should be fired. I had our two webcams mixed up, so... Oh, there you go. Fire LD. That should be the new meme for the chat, but... Yeah, talking a little bit more about these groups, it's not just IG, though. I think for me, another big story in Group A was the underperformance of LGD, especially early on. It seems like out of all the Chinese teams, it's LGD and Tongfu who have had the most trouble kind of adapting to this version. Now, it's not that LGD has looked bad. They've certainly looked stronger than a lot of the other teams, but they've been a little bit slow to adapt, and they played a kind of similar to DK at the International 2. They played a lot of very passive, defensive, farm-oriented play. They're starting to adapt to the version. We're seeing them draft a little bit differently, but not quite at the same level as IG, or I would even say DK is a step above them right now, at least from the results they've shown thus far.
Yeah, it really feels that I feel for IG this could be one of their toughest matchups there, going up against Orange. Orange and DK seem to be a much more informed than the LGD that we've been seeing so far, and it's really going to be not necessarily a walk in the park for IG. It really has looked like they're playing better than any team out there, but this is going to be their toughest opponent yet. They versed LGD in a moment of weakness, and I feel IG in some ways had the slightly, I'd say, more easier group. In theory, their group was very top and bottom heavy with LGD there, but LGD not playing all that well. The other group was much more balanced from top to bottom in Group B.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And, well, we saw it in the results. If we look at Group B, DK was 7-1, Orange 6-2. The top was balanced, and then the bottom, well, there are the haves and the have-nots for this group. Orange and DK, they tied each other. DK didn't lose another game the rest of the way. Orange, who did they actually tie again? I believe it was Tongfu, where they split 1-1. So Orange, they've shown flashes of the brilliance we've come to expect from Mushi, from Yamate, even from Ice Ice Ice. It's a star-studded lineup, probably the most talent on a single team outside of China as far as Asia goes, but at times they've struggled to put it together.
Yeah, it really has been a matter of them. At some games it's worked out, other games it's just been a bit all over the place. They haven't looked like they have in the past, and it's going to come down to whether or not they can in the playoffs. It's really the good thing about having this playoffs format. Sure, we see two teams go home; they don't get their chance to prove themselves in the playoffs. But the teams who make it, anything can happen. Even those teams who find themselves finishing third and fourth with only the one life in the playoffs in the first round, they still have the chance to make it to that big top four land final. So even if you played poorly in the groups, there's plenty of time to turn it around.
I completely agree with you, and I'm just laughing at the chat who wants to fire me, wants to give me some additional hair. I saw the doctor yesterday. He said I'm not balding. He said it's just my natural hairline, guys. So, yeah, we'll see. But my hair shouldn't be the focus of today. It should be these teams, and talking about teams that were sort of lucky to skate into the playoffs here. Tongfu was 2-4. Flash was 2-4. Only actually make it into the playoffs because they win the time rating tiebreaker for Natural 9. Speaking of Natural 9, I know you're going to be a little sad about this, but they don't advance. They struggled mightily in the group stages, and frankly, I feel, the two stand-ins, having them, it definitely showed, not to blame the stand-ins especially, but they did not look very practiced, did not look very polished, and even struggled against teams like Flash and Tongfu, who are hardly at the top of their games.
Yeah, I think it's with the Group B. It was the Flash, Tongfu, and 9. All three of those teams didn't really seem to come into their form. Flash played very aggressive, had some moments of brilliance. It just wasn't consistent brilliance. A lot has been basically relying on their solid mid player, Ahi, who played fantastic. But I think the other four need to step up their game here in the playoffs if they're to stand a chance. It could be a quick fall for Flash Esports here in their first round. Same goes for Tongfu. They need to really just up their level of play. They did it somewhat against Orange when they managed to take a game off Orange, with securing their playoff berth. If they'd gotten a draw there, we would have had an awkward three-way tie, but at the same time using that time rating to decide things there. But it's really none of those three teams played all that well.
Another thing that should be brought up is I think it's time for us to dive into this match specifically, and let's actually take a look at the playoff brackets. I know a lot of people are confused about the format. The way that the tournament is working is we start off, technically, this is round 2 action. You could think of it sort of as your winner's bracket, but only the top 4 teams start in the winner's bracket. The bottom 4 start in the loser's bracket. So we have IG, Orange, DK, and LGD who finished 1 or 2 in their groups. They'll start in round 2. If they lose, whoever loses this game is not out of the tournament. They get sent down to what I guess you could call the loser's bracket, and they'll be playing the winner of Tongfu versus EG. The loser of that match gets eliminated. So basically a winner's bracket, loser's bracket kind of format, but you can see it all on one screen here. And IG versus Orange, whoever loses this match, still in pretty good place to advance in the LAN finals, I feel. They're going to be facing off against Tongfu or EG, which frankly have not looked strong. I would say out of the 4 bottom-ranked teams, Tongfu, EG, MUFC, and Flash, the only one I feel has any kind of a shot to make it to the finals is MUFC.
Yeah, MUFC are a team who are very unpredictable, having won the ESWC qualifiers against Orange recently. They also also won the ACG, the online portion of the Asia, the qualifier for that. They took down Orange. So they're a team who can compete with the big names, and I think against teams like LGD, they can cause some upsets. Their first round is against Flash. Their first round is against Flash Esports. Then they verse the loser of Orange and IG, which is quite likely going to be Orange. So we'll see that Orange versus MUFC grudge match. And that's a matchup which is really 50-50. I mean, half the time it's Orange winning the finals of the tournaments in that matchup. The other half, it's MUFC coming out on top. So I feel we're going to be seeing either MUFC or Orange at the top 4 finals. If not, then it's because we're seeing someone like Flash there instead, which would be a big surprise for me. So it's going to be up to MUFC to really step up their game.
Well, MUFC is on the bottom side of the bracket. They play Flash first, and then they play the loser of DK versus LGD. So it's gonna. The way I'm expecting the bracket to shake out, and I think this is sort of the obvious way, is IG should take this match. Tongfu versus EG. Hard to say. I would probably give the edge to Tongfu, especially with the pings that EG has. It does make it hard to compete. And Tongfu looked a little bit better in their last match. They took a game off of Orange, so they seem to be gelling a little bit, and they do have a new roster. Well, so does EG for that matter. A lot of teams in the. In fact, it's interesting. The only team that has a brand or that has the same roster as they did at the international is, or in previous tournaments, is IG. Everyone else has undergone some changes with the rosters. For some teams, it's looking like an upgrade, particularly DK. I guess LGD hasn't changed their roster at all, but aside from that, it's interesting. So, IG versus Orange. Let's talk about this matchup specifically. What do you expect to see out of these teams? We'll talk about IG first. We have a couple of key points here. Pick mobile and gank, shut down Mushi, and kill everyone. Where do you want to start with this team?
Well, kill everyone, everything, and anything just standing in their way has really been their motto throughout this group stage. Nothing has been able to slow them down in the slightest bit. They've just been an unstoppable force, and it's going to take something. I mean, you're going to need that unmovable object, which has to be Orange this game. And I feel it's a tough ask for Orange.
It is. We mentioned pick mobile and gank because this team has actually not been. They've been playing incredibly aggressive Dota. It honestly, it looks like exactly what you see out of teams like Empire or Na'Vi when they choose to play aggressively, except just more polished and more refined. But it's that same kind of kill you under your tower, kill the tower, and then just continue onto your base. I completely butcher that quote for the international, but kill you under your tower, kill your tower, and then something. God, I can't remember it. But that's what IG is doing. They're picking Night Stalker, Sven, Bounty Hunter, these aggressive gankers, these aggressive tower divers. Even when they pick heroes that don't have to gank, that don't have to get involved early. It's funny, the Chinese commentators apparently said when Zoe was actually playing Sven in one of the games that he was doing his job as a carry, he was getting farm, but the game ended so quickly. It's like, what do? Do you go fight with your team and get some kills, or do you do your job and farm? Because by the time you get your items, Ferrari and YYF have pretty much already ended the game for your team.
Yeah, it really is a matter of just them constantly being aggressive. They don't even need to buy time for Zhou to farm. It's a completely different format and playstyle to what we see from teams like DK. Burning's been playing a much more aggressive style where he's farming heroes rather than farming creeps, but it's still a very Burning-centric style of play, whereas with IG, they're giving space for Ferrari at the mid lane. They have Chuan come out as a support in the 4 or 5 position getting farm. It's a much more spread out workload. And it's really worked out well so far. We've seen those aggressive mobile lineups with the Bounty Hunter, the Sven using the Warcry, the solo mid Night Stalker has been a key hero like you mentioned, and it's just pure mobility. Getting up a massive melee heroes, which on paper are like, wow, this lineup's not going to work. They've got 4 melee heroes. Their laning's going to be terrible, but it just works. It comes together in the mid game.
I completely agree. And, well, why farm creeps when you can farm heroes? That's pretty much, it's the Chinese teams that are doing best are kind of living and dying by that motto. Real quickly, as the game is about to start, let's talk about Orange. You and I both agree there's a very unlikely they're going to win playing standard, especially with KYXY filling in for Ice Ice Ice. It's a roster they haven't been practicing with, not with this 5 exactly. So one of our key points is to run an offensive tri-lane. Just do something different, something aggressive. You can't let IG get to the mid-game intact, because that's where they're just going to start diving you at towers, killing you there, and sort of snowballing and rolling everything up from there. So run an offensive tri-lane, play like GoDz, Y God, M God, and of course our gods. Hopefully more like Y and M than GoDz, but and bring pepper spray just to try and deal with that onslaught. Anything to slow down IG.
if they play like me, they're in a world of trouble and going to be looking. Then they're going to need to bring out that pepper spray and get very, very active with it, because this is going to be a game where, I mean, they can't afford to have any player get shut down. It's got to be Yamata and Mushi just playing a fantastic game. They're not going to have Ice 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 playing as well, which is going to be not what they're used to. They're going to have KYXY, and that's something which could affect how they play this. I think it makes it more likely they go offensive tri-lane, because Ice 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 was playing that suicide solo when they ran it, and it's not really a role that KYXY will slip into all that well. He's more a solo mid or safe lane solo type of player, so this is going to be Orange. They have their work cut out for them.
With all that being said, guys, the game is about to get started, so hang on to your hats, grab your coffee, whatever beverages you would like, whatever time in the world it is for you. Game 1 of IG versus Orange, we're about to kick off. Hang on, the game's starting in just a second.